إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد, we start in the name of Allah the Most High, the one to whom belongs all praise, the one who controls all affairs, the one who gives, the one who takes, glorified and exalted is He. And we send peace and blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam and his family and his followers until the end of time. Ameen. Allahu khaliqu kulli shay'in wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. It is Allah who has created everything, and it is Allah who is capable of all things. It is Allah who has created everything, and it is Allah who is capable of all things. Glorified and exalted is He. Allah has created everything in existence and has appointed the various things that He has created to have appointed terms, such that they will take their course. And one thing will pass to the next, and one stage will continue to the next. Human beings will have their lifespans, creatures will have their lifespans, countries, places, cars, clothing, every single thing in creation will have its beginning, and every single thing in creation will have its end. And ultimately all of that will be by the will of the one who creates everything, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Glorified and exalted is He. He is the one who created life, He is the one who created death, He is the one who takes the earth when it's dry and brings it back to life. He is the one who takes an earth that is full of life and leads it towards its death, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, كَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَكُنْتُمْ أَمْوَاتًا فَأَحْيَاكُمْ ثُمَّ يُمِيتُكُمْ ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. How is it that you can disbelieve in Allah when you were in non-existence and He brought you to life, and then He causes you to die, and then He brings you back to life again, and to Him is the return? And so much of what we think about in terms of Allah as the Creator is related to these processes. Because as our theologians have said throughout Muslim history, that one of the evidences of the Creator is the creation. And the sign of the creation and its beginningness is that it changes. And so we witness within ourselves this change all the time. Even some people said that the heart of the believer, it flips from one state to another 40 times in the day. Sometimes you might have a day like that, right? And they say that it's one of the signs of the hypocrite actually that they're the same all the time. The hypocrite is the one, they're one trick. It's the same all the time. Why? Because their heart's dead. So if the heart is dead, there's no change in it. It just stays the same. But the heart that's alive is feeling different things. It might have, the person might go through something beautiful and they experience that, and they might go through something very difficult and they experience that. And they make some dhikr, and everything is changing all the time. And all of that change inevitably leads us back to an understanding of the one who created everything and the one who does not change, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the question of where is it then that we have our ta'alluq? Where is it that we're connected? What are we hanging from, in a sense? And as long as we're hanging on to these things that change, there will always be some level of instability. The only way then to have instability in a constantly changing reality is to be connected to the one who does not change. La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why am I talking about this right now? Because one of the other places where we see this in the physical world, and we'll come back to this at the end, is the change of physical landscapes. Sometimes in Southern California we forget that there are places in the world where seasons exist. We'll be in November and it's 80 degrees outside. And a few days ago, last week I had the blessed opportunity to visit Chicago, and I landed in Chicago and it was 20 degrees. It's a big difference, right? And there was some snow on the ground from the day before, and it's totally different, right? But there's change. In most places there's some level of change in the seasons, and even here we have some level of change in the seasons. And sometimes we see changes even in the environment that scare us more than the changes in the season. Like the fact that we're in November and it's 80 degrees outside. And the winds are very strong, and the fires are nearby. And so we look at these fires as a source of destruction, and we ask Allah to protect our families and our loved ones and our communities and people's property and their belongings. Allahumma ameen. And what's interesting about that is that one of the things that we learn from this idea of change is that where do we understand value from? And are things that seem good always good, and are things that seem bad always bad? When we think about fires, for example, obviously when it's a wildfire and it's affecting people's homes and their livelihood, that's not a positive thing. Right? As far as we can tell, that's not a positive thing. But sometimes in other places, you might need the fire in order to burn down the vegetation and allow it to start again. So the fire might actually be a good thing. In some places they intentionally start the fire in order to clear and give life to the land again. Right? And the opposite side of that is we think about rain. And at the end of the khutbah, inshallah, we'll make one of the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ for rain. And we know that from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ was that in times when there was drought, that he ﷺ would make dua for rain. But even that rain, which is seemingly a source of blessing, can also be a source of hardship. Right? I think it was last year or the year before when the rains were so great and it was flooding under the walls here in the building. And we were kind of like pushing the water back so that we could pray Jum'ah without the water coming into the sun, into the line, right? So all of these things, that's why the Prophet ﷺ used to say, Sayyib nafi'an, Ya Allah Sayyib nafi'an, that the rain that comes down, let it be a beneficial rain. And we see that in the story that happened in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that they had this drought, and the man came into the khutbah and he said, Ya Rasulullah, the land has been destroyed and the animals are starving and we're losing all of our crops and everything is bad. Make dua that there's rain. The Prophet ﷺ raised his hand and made dua for rain, and the rain came. And it didn't stop. It just kept coming, kept coming, kept coming. The next Friday the same man came, he said, Ya Rasulullah, we made dua for rain. Can you make dua that the rain, like it's flooding now. So these things are always like that. There's a little bit, there's too much. And there's always this balance kind of that's in the middle, right? And it is Allah that brings life, it is Allah who brings death. It is Allah that brings good, it is Allah who allows harm to occur, subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And one of the greatest blessings when we think about it, in general, rain is a blessing, right? So you can have something as simple as in our yard in Anaheim, it's been very hot, right, this year. And so everything in our yard basically died. Everything's dirt, all the grass is gone, everything's dead, right? And it rained 1 or 2 nights. There was some light rain. And we came out the next morning, a little bit of grass was coming out of the ground. SubhanAllah, right? These metaphors and these examples of what happens in the natural world are examples also of what happens in our internal world. So they say, for example, that the heart of the believer, if it's outside of the remembrance of Allah, then it's like a fish that's out of water. The heart, it yearns for this remembrance. And so Allah has ordained for us that we have to have these 5 daily prayers that help us to feed our hearts and to purify our hearts. As the Prophet ﷺ said, that the person who, what do you think, he asked his companions, what do you think of the person who has a river outside of their home? And they go and they bathe in it 5 times a day. Would they have any dirt left on them? And they said no, they wouldn't have any dirt left on them. He said this is like the prayer. And the person goes and they're nourishing their heart. Right? And so we come into times in our lives maybe where we feel a level of parchment. We feel like the earth has gone dry. And one of the most important things that we can do in those kind of times is that we can slowly but surely feed the earth. Feed the earth. But we have to do it slowly and carefully. You know, a lot of times what human beings do is that when we want to make a change, we go too hard. Right? So you have the person, they're like, you know, they haven't worked out for 3 years and they want to get in shape now. So then they go to the gym, and the first time they go to the gym, they work out so hard that they hurt everything. And then they stop working out again. Right? The earth, when there's dryness in the earth, what happens? We saw this before. That's what happened last time. What happens when there's extreme dryness in the earth and then the rain comes too much? The earth is too dry to actually accept it. It needs a little bit of rain, and then it'll soften the earth up. And then if more rain comes, the earth can accept more rain because now it's ready. But before it was too parched. So when we're coming into our relationship with Allah, we have to constantly give that little bit of water, so the earth of our hearts can remain fertile. So we make the salah on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, in some narrations it says that there's an angel that's specifically appointed in front of the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when the people from his nation say, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, the angel tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so and so made salah on you. So and so made salam to you. So when we make the salah, and one narration even the Prophet ﷺ says, and it's given to me that this person made that salah, and ana sallaytu alayhi, and I also make the same prayer for them. So this is one of the blessings that we can get from that when we make this, we get that blessing in our heart. When we say La ilaha illallah, when we say Subhanallah, as we said before, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ, that there's nothing in the creation except that it's saying Subhanallah. So when we walk out in the streets and we drive in our cars and we say Subhanallah, not only are we feeding our own souls, but we're joining in with the symphony that's going on around us that we actually can't hear, but it's happening. That Allah is being glorified by everything in creation. And in saying that is to say that Allah gives us many ways and many means by which the earth can be cultivated. The earths of our hearts and the earth of the world around us. The greatest gift of cultivation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to all of creation, the greatest means by which things are brought to life, was Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We're in the month of the Blessed Prophet's birthday, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And one of the things that Imam Busiri, rahimahullah ta'ala, the author of the Burda, said about the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that أخوك عيسى دعا ميتا فأحياه, that your brother Isa alayhi salam, he called people who were dead, and he called them and he brought them back to life by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? This is something we know from the story of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, that Isa was given the ability to bring people back to life by the will of Allah, right? As mentioned in the Quran. And then Imam Busiri addresses the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he says, وَأَنْتَ أَحْيَيْتَ أَجْيَالٍ مِّنَ الرَّمَّمِ. He says that, and you sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you brought entire generations of people back to life from nothingness. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So who is it that cultivated the earth of all of this potentiality? All of the possibilities of all of the masajid and all of the earth and all of the places where Allah's name is being mentioned and all of the places where salah is being made and all of the places where charity is being given and all of the places where people are being helped and aided and all of these things that are happening, all of that is on the hands of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's the ultimate rain, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. A beneficial and beautiful rain that was given to all of humanity and all of creation. And that's why when we follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ, all of creation is in happiness. Everything is joyful. That's why in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he talks about the person who goes out to seek knowledge, says that the person who has knowledge, even the fish in the ocean, they ask Allah to forgive that person. We always wonder, like, people wonder, well, okay, so what's the connection? The connection is that if the person is on the way of the Prophet ﷺ, then the way that they are living is aligned with everything else in existence. So that means if they're following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ properly, not only will human beings be treated correctly, with honor and dignity and rights, and not being taken advantage of, not being abused, not being ill-treated, being dignified and honored, not only will that happen to human beings, but the way of the Prophet ﷺ will bring life to the earth. And the way of the Prophet ﷺ will bring cleanliness to the oceans and to the seas and to the rivers. And the order of creation will be aligned in the way that it's supposed to be aligned. So much so that the fish in the ocean will say, oh Allah, forgive that person. Because that person is carrying the legacy of the Prophet ﷺ. So it was the generosity and the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He would give us His messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And in this month, it's a good opportunity to really take some time to review and to study and to spend some time getting to know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To figure out, what did he do? And this is the center of everything for us. We believe that Islam is not, it's an interesting kind of, everything in Islam is kind of like a paradox and a balance. So Islam doesn't have its own particular culture, right? So you have West African Muslim culture, and you have South Asian Muslim culture, and you have Central Asian Muslim culture, and you have Middle East Muslim culture, and all of these different places are similar but different. But what is the area of similarity that everything unites on is on the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the center of all of it. So there's so much so that we have to make the Prophet ﷺ a part of our lives and realize that in doing so, we get great benefit from that. And it's not just like, oh, I'm going to learn the hadith so then I can tell other people about it, or I'm going to learn the hadith so that I can correct everyone else, or something like that. I'm going to learn the hadith because I love the Prophet ﷺ, and I want to know about him. Oh, but why did he do this and why did he do that? He did it. He ate on the floor. Okay, I'm going to like to eat on the floor. Maybe it's hard for me. I'm not saying you have to do it. He walked into places with his right foot. He did this and that. I'm going to do those things just out of love for the Prophet ﷺ. Right? And that's going to have benefit for us in our lives. They say that some of the armies in the time of Salahuddin, just something to think about. Like, what was the relationship of the people with the Prophet ﷺ? Some of the armies in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they would go and they would march to the battle, and there's people that are appointed, scholars that are traveling with the army. Their job is to read from the books of hadith as the army is marching towards the battle. This is not like commentary and stuff, just so-and-so said that so-and-so said that so-and-so said that the Prophet ﷺ said, don't belittle any good deed, even smiling in the face of your brother. And so-and-so said, and so-and-so said, and so-and-so said that the Prophet ﷺ said, whatever it might be. They go into battle reading hadith as a means by which the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His protection and His generosity and His kindness would descend upon them. Right? So having this relationship with the Prophet ﷺ is extremely important. It can be as simple as sitting down with our families and just saying, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, wa sallallahu ala Muhammad, wa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Or it can be listening to whatever nasheeds you like to listen to, or singing whatever you want to sing. Or it can be picking up a book of hadith and reading some of the hadith. It can be having something about the life of the Prophet ﷺ in the house so that people can read from his life. Just one page, half a page. Over time, one page, half a page becomes 500 pages, 600 pages, 1,000 pages. After time, 5 minutes and 5 minutes and 5 minutes becomes hours upon hours upon hours. And we're able then to slowly but surely inculcate the love of the Prophet ﷺ in our hearts. Because had he not been sent, we would not know what to do. We think we're smart. And we probably get a lot of things right. Because Allah is Allah. And He has inspired human beings. أَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. He gave people an understanding of what's bad and what's good. But we wouldn't really know without the Prophet ﷺ. We wouldn't really know what it is that we're supposed to do and to stay away from, and how to be the best that we can possibly be. Right? That's all on the hands of the Blessed Prophet ﷺ. So in this month, we have an opportunity and a responsibility, inshallah, to try and reconnect. And to spend some time in the study of the seerah, to spend some time in praying for the Prophet ﷺ, saying salah upon him, saying salam upon him, and invoking Allah to continue to allow us to follow his way. And to keep his sunnah alive. That's the responsibility of every generation of the Muslims that comes. Every single generation, they have the responsibility of keeping the way of the Prophet ﷺ alive. May we be like that. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات، وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات، وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات، وترفعنا بها عندك أعلى الدرجات، وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His blessings and His praises upon our blessed Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Please make dua for Najida Amani Kashawi. She passed away on Saturday in her sleep. May Allah have mercy on her and elevate her. And also for brother MBM Ali, who passed away in Sri Lanka. May Allah have mercy on him. And brother Tajuddin, who is in critical condition from a motor accident. May Allah give him shifa and give patience and perseverance to his family. Inshallah, ameen. We're just going to close, inshallah, with this dua. From some of the acts of the Prophet ﷺ, some of the schools differ on it, but basically, in general, the Prophet ﷺ would make dua for rain when there's a need for rain. And, sometimes these things become habit for us, and we should try our best in this moment, in this special time, in this special day, on the day of Jum'ah, in this special month, in the month of Rabi al-Awwal, to make good intention that Allah accept our dua. And inshallah, we believe that there's at least one person in this gathering who's sincere. At least one. And that when they raise their hands and they say, Ameen, that this dua will be answered. And it won't be the first time that it's happened, inshallah. So one of the du'as that the Prophet ﷺ used to make for rain is the following, and then I'll conclude it with the du'a that ends the khutbah, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. اللهم اسقنا غيثا مغيثا هنيئا مريئا مريعا غدقا مجلدا ساحيا عاما طبقا دائما. اللهم اسقنا الغيث ولا تجعلنا من القانطين. اللهم إنا بالبلاد والعباد والخلق من الآواء والضنك ما لا نشكو إلا إليك. اللهم أنبت لنا الزرع وأدل لنا الضرع واسقنا من بركات السماء وأنبت لنا من بركات الأرض. اللهم إنا نستغفرك وإنك كنت غفارا فأرسل السماء علينا مدرارا. Allah, we ask you to forgive us and to accept from us. Oh Allah, forgive us of our sins and our shortcomings. Accept from us our deeds. Enter us into paradise and keep us away from your displeasure. Oh Allah, give us knowledge that benefits us and bring our hearts and our lives back together. Ya Allah, by your mercy and your benefit, your blessings. Ya Allah, send peace and blessings and upon our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in this blessed month and all months. We thank you, Ya Allah, for sending him to all of creation. Allah, we ask you to send rain upon the fires and to protect the people who have been affected by them, to protect their families and their belongings and their loved ones. We ask you, Ya Allah, that those who have been afflicted by these fires, that you make their recovery easy for them, and that you make it facilitated for them to get back on their feet and to have shelter and to have a means of being safe. Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, in this blessed month, in this blessed time with these blessed people, to take care of these needs and to help us with our families and to protect our children and to bless us and our spouses and to have be gentle with our elderly. We ask you, Ya Allah, to take care of all of our needs and to bless us in our efforts and to give us knowledge that benefits us. Allahumma ameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa aqimus salam.